Ladies and gentlemen, conservators of all ages, welcome to a special episode of the comic book Conservators, episode 91. Please join me in welcoming the Conservators. Hey, what's happening?
Hey, guys.
Hey, everybody.
How's everybody?
Wonderful. Matt, welcome.
Hi, guys. How y'all doing?
In case you guys hadn't noticed, I'm joined as I usually am. This is, it's me, Dr. Paul, Liberty Hill Comics. I'm joined as I usually am by Phil of Phantom Comic Studios, Phantom Phil, and Captain Larry of Flying L Comics. But tonight, we have a special guest, Matt Nelson of CGC.
Yay!
Welcome to the show, Matt. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
It's
it's our pleasure.
And we very much appreciate it. So we're very happy to have you on tonight. Everybody's been excited. We already have a full chat room, and people have submitted for like the last 2 weeks. They've been submitting questions. And I want to thank everybody that submitted questions. I could not get to all of them. I don't think we're going to get to all of them. I also paraphrased some of them, and I combined some of them where they were similar. So because of that, I didn't put a credit next to each of them. So I just want to credit all of you and say thank you. You know who you are. And I'm super excited for the show. I think we are going to get a lot out of Matt, and I think it's going to be great. And I am going to thank this show's sponsors before we jump in, as we always do. This episode, if you're watching it live, you're viewing it ad-free thanks to the following four gentlemen: Phil Criminale, Don Carter, Gorilla Monkey 3K, and Collecting Chaos. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. And if you're not already watching their respective channels and social media, please go check them out. Really great stuff there. And we normally do a quick shout out, Matt, to all of the folks in the chat. And so if you're in the chat and you haven't shouted yet, please do so that we can recognize you. And hopefully we have at least one woman in the house. Today is International Women's Day. And
well, I do see
everybody had a good Women's Day, but maybe next time we'll schedule a female for this show in a year.
Well, I do see Variance Vault in the chat, and
there we go.
That is Miss Margarita. So we do have a woman here.
Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.
Hi, Rita.
Absolutely.
Hey, Rita.
All right. Morris Devereaux is here. Salesboy Comics is here. My buddy Mike, Don Carter, GSK Vorak 8742. Welcome to the show. You Pluck My Last Comics here. The Professor Peter Alachi's here. Space Baby's here. Ben Stewart is here. Collecting Chaos. Welcome. John Bingham of Lucan is here. New Row Comics is here. JCP is here. Ben Stewart is here. Variance Vault. Welcome. Rocky Top Comics, Salesboy, thank you so much for the super chat. Keep it moist. Jason's here, the Artist Adrift. Welcome. Billy Pilgrim is here. Squarebound Sorcerer's here. Welcome to the show. Don Carter, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. Variance Vault. William O, 476. Welcome to the show. Starman is here. What's up, David? Collecting Chaos, thank you for the super chat. He says, thanks, Matt. We all appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right.
Collect a Comic is here. You Pluck My Last Comic with the super chat. And David, I am Starman with the super chat. Sean Crowell, welcome. Looking forward to hearing from Matt. Appreciated all of you. So we're going to try to have a really interactive show. We do have some slides prepared like we normally do. And we're just going to use them. We're going to pop them up so that everybody can read them and see what we're doing. And then we're going to just drop the deck off so that we can chat about it. We want to have round table here, and we want the chat to contribute. So Gorilla Monkey 3K, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate you. All right. Without further ado, this is the part of the stage, Matt, where I brag about your bona fides. Just because not everybody knows this. This is my chronology. I ran it by you. I think it's correct, but you can correct us. And there's actually one thing I kind of wanted you to add in here where it goes. I will go through this quickly. I know you're modest, Matt. But I'm still blown away sometimes when I just look at this. In 88, started collecting at the age of 14. In 94, 6 years later, named the youngest ever Overstreet advisor at the age of 20. Okay. Yeah. To put this in perspective, I think 6 years into my comic collecting journey, I was trying to corner the market on geriatric gangrene jujitsu gerbils because I thought that was the next big thing. And in 6 years, you were an Overstreet advisor. I am blown away by that. So I think prodigy is appropriate. In 95, you found Classics Incorporated. I'm presuming somewhere in that between 88 and 95, Matt, is when you took Bill Sorrell's course.
It was actually 96. So 96 would have been, when I started restoration. So that's the only one. It's off by year, but everything else is fine. But no, in between that, it was More Fun Comics when I worked for Bill Poncetti at the store in New Orleans. Yeah. And that was from late 92, December 92 until, early 97 when I transitioned over to restoration full time. So that was during college. While I was at college, I was working in a comic book store.
Yeah, that's awesome. In 2013, you sold Classics Incorporated to CGC. They turned it into an internal group, which was relabeled CCS, and you ran that, during which you overhauled the restoration grading guidelines. You introduced the conservative grade designation and changed, I think, a lot of things, not just at CGC, but in the industry for the better. In 2016, you become the primary grader. In 2021, you become president of CGC. 2022, you publish your first book. Congratulations. I love it, by the way.
Yeah,
of course. And congratulations to y'all, too.
Oh, yeah, thank you. For those of you that don't know, Matt wrote the foreword to mine and Shelby's book. Yes. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, amazing book.
By the way, the book is great, Matt. I think I was putting together everybody's questions, for the show tonight. Yeah. And I've read your book cover to cover 3-4 times. And I was going, okay, this one's in the book. The answer to this is in the book. The answer to this is in the book.
It's all in the book.
Yeah.
But sometimes people like to talk about the corner cases, and that's why we're having you on, to get it out there.
And also things have changed since it was published. I mean, it's been over 3 years, so
that's true.
Things have quite a few things have changed, really. So yes, things to talk about in that regard as well.
Yeah. So the point is, guys, Matt's one of us, right? Like, Matt's exactly Jason's age. Matt is 2 years younger than I am. He's my wife's age. He is 2 years older than Ben Stewart, right? And he's a huge comic book guy. He's one of us. So that's, I think, what has always come across to me in interacting with you, Matt, is you're just one of us. And
just a fan.
Think that's awesome. Yeah, just a fan. And I think it shows in the way you conduct yourself with us, and it shows in how you conduct yourself in managing the mothership, CGC.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I love the stuff. Y'all love the stuff. It's so great. It's like a camaraderie. And I think that's the way I've always felt about it. Everything that's come since then has just been a byproduct of that. But the love, that's at the core, really, and that's never changed.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's what we try to do on this channel, and what we try to do in our Facebook group, and even in our book. That's what we tried to do in our book, right? So, Hopefully that comes across. So,
I mean,
they're both very dense. Both books.
oh yeah.
as,
True.
as a professional submitting books, just to get it out on the record, though, I mean, Matt, you're in a position to not have to be so much almost, I mean, for lack of a better word, mentor like I've submitted books that you've looked at, and the way that you've approached it wasn't just from a business perspective. It was from you've been where I am and you understand where I'm coming from, so you can lend advice as well as help me come to a conclusion with something. And that's never been lost. I mean, that's one of the reasons why really CGC has been great to submit to by and large. So I can say that kind of unequivocally.
Well, thank you, Phil. Yeah, no, I feel like, if you guys do a better job, then, we get more submissions. If you're doing it for clients, they're happier, they're submitting more. It's a win-win if we're all, and the other thing too is that you guys are on the cusp of a frontier that's changing, right now, and it's been changing for a little while. And so that requires kind of on a high level, working together, I guess, in a collective way on a large scale that kind of gets an understanding in place, because, we're all getting there together, with these new frontiers. And so it's I think, being collaborative on a high level is certainly beneficial to all of us. It's a win-win for everyone. So yeah, CGC's not interested in stomping on people in their books and their grades.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good segue before we jump into the what's next. Let's say hi to Amanda. Happy International Women's Day.
Amanda's here.
Amanda, hi Amanda.
Thanks for joining.
So those are the bona fides. And then there were a bunch of questions, Matt, about what's next for you, what's next for CGC. You've handled some of the most important comics ever published. What ones are the most impressive? Which ones left an impression upon you, or you still kind of can't believe you held? And do you still collect comics? And if so, what are you chasing? So kind of ramble anywhere you want there, but these were, a lot of folks just wanted to get to know you a little better.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it brief. I've covered this before. We have a lot of other more interesting topics to get to, so I'll breeze through this. But no, Action 1. I mean, Tech 27, Marvel 1. I've been thankful. I've been very privileged in my career to have held, many copies of all those books, and it never gets old. Action 1 coming through, it never gets old. Mm-hmm. I stop, I'm holding it at my desk, and I'm just like, wow, this.
Then what do you do? After you hold it, what do you do, Matt?
I grade it, and I throw it in a holder, and I ship it back.
But before you put it in a holder, what do you do?
I smell it. Yes, of course. I smell it. Of course. In fact, there's a video of the 7.0 Conserve that's at Heritage right now. There's a video that was put out by Automatic, and they not Automatic. And I'm sniffing the book.
I saw it. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, people are gonna, I don't know.
Matt, who was it that put that? Didn't I see somebody with like a button that said Matt Nelson smells?
Well, the other one is the gloves. Like people, no matter how many times that we address in older videos, every new video, there's like a crop of people who
I find myself making a comment about that. Yep.
Yeah, they've never. They must be newcomers or something, and the first thing they think of gloves. And I mean, this one had like 6 or 8 or 10 comments, separate comments, and people are addressing it, but they don't even. People just like leave a comment and move on.
I think that comes from the same perspective of those that don't know. If they have an old book and they're like comic restoration, that's just the word they think of to search. But if you know that restoration is a stigmatized word. So we're talking about conservation, if we are talking about something specific like that. So I think that's just coming from people who aren't familiar, and they see the price and they're like, well, valuables, you wear gloves, right? And it's like, no, you have to understand the context too. These are ephemeral objects, the dexterity, and then once you can explain it, it can come across.
Because it's all the touch. It's that tactile. We got to touch the books. We can't feel through gloves.
Yeah. Right. So, in fact, as you know, Matt, the Library of Congress states that you shouldn't be using gloves generally to handle valuable paper, documents, and ephemera. I get haters on my channel all the time, and
Me too.
I just send them the link to the Library of Congress and say, "Have a nice day." And I don't.
Oh yeah, yeah.
don't
People
spend much
will
more
get an explanation. They'll post something, and someone will give an explanation. They'll be like, "Yeah, whatever, bro."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they're not going to accept any answers, so it's
No,
like it's a
no.
lost cause.
Speaking of bros, Red Hood Comics in the house. He says, "Mama." That's the best I could do. Hopefully, I did it justice there.
Yeah.
All right. So we're just kind of warming up, letting people get into the chat here. Couple more like non-conservation questions, sort of general questions. Folks had questions about the slab. I don't know. I think I just used the GPT to create your new slab, Matt. So I saved you a lot of money.
Oh wow.
I saved you a lot of money. You don't have to pay the design and graphic design and media folk.
It must weigh 10 pounds.
Yeah, that's the point.
It's made of gold,
It's
too.
armor.
There were multiple people had questions about the slabs, whether or not you would ever consider a premium slab of some sort, whether or not you would include metal or holograms or other effects into a said premium slab, whether or not UV protection is in the books, personalization, and then also slabbing other things like either treasury size books or original art, stuff like that. So
yeah, so UV protection is definitely in the works. Treasury editions is a bucket list item. I've talked about it before, where I have an idea on how to slab those. It's kind of a reverse idea with the slab, where you're putting the challenge is you can't build a holder that big because of the cost and the how fragile it would be. It would probably break, or a higher chance of it. So there's a concept where you kind of flip it and put like the Treasury edition between two hard pieces of plastic, or that's safe, and then seal it in the innerwell material. So you kind of flip it.
yeah.
Yeah. So that
The inner well becomes the outer well.
Exactly. You flip it. Yeah. But that's a bucket list thing. That's a moonshot idea that will eventually come to fruition, but probably a little ways down the line. As far as like customizing the holder, the complication with that is just the cost involved and the variables involved in the encapsulation process. So we try, like labels already is, I'm not going to call it a nightmare, but we have a million labels, like, because you have custom labels. So not only do you have like the yellow and the green and the purple and the blue and the conserve and the pedigree, now you have the custom labels on top of that, and then you have, JSA and 6 series coming in, and there's like a zillion different labels. So that's one example. Now, if you get into like the holder itself, now you're talking about much higher cost because it's not paper, it's plastic. And then it complicates the process and slabbing and everything like that. So, I'm not going to say that'll never happen, but I think consistency is probably the best path forward currently, is to keep the product consistent. Kind of makes me think of, I don't know, sometimes in the past when, no, that's probably not. It's probably a bad example. Saying when people were grading books and sealing them in the bag and the board, but not putting them in the hard container. So that would be it's probably a little more extreme. But yeah, I think maybe down the road, I'd say labels are the easiest to change because it's just paper. We can go ahead and change what's on the label. But when you get into plastic, oh man, you're talking about, you got to seal it shut, make sure you got security features. Sure. And the cost involved, the operations, it's extremely difficult. So yeah, we'll see. But probably, I don't know. I'd say of the three ideas, that one's probably the most distant.
Sure. Yeah. So for now, we have to do our own gold plating.
Or people build they sell like the frames or whatever you put your books. They have rubber or somebody
gold foil and everything else.
Yeah.
So Dr. Shelby Thompson must have had his ears ringing when I mentioned him co-authoring the book for me. He says, "What's up?"
There
Matt?
he is.
Hey,
Shelby.
All right. Okay. Now we're getting into conservation type questions. So, are my conservation notes read when I send notes in? By whom are they saved? Are they entered into a database? Would CGC ever consider adding any of that information to the grader's notes, either about what was done or who conserved the book? And do conserved books go to certain graders? And also, to sort of wrap up this series of questions, how can we conservators help CGC when we submit books? What's best practice for us? Maybe outside of, I know you've published best practice for subbing books, but maybe there's specific ones for conserved books that would help you. Us helping you helps us because we get better results.
Yeah, so I think conservation, I put that kind of in a class by itself. It's different to me than pressing, and restoration is kind of conservation's become the new restoration, what it was 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago. And I think the altruistic purpose of conservation kind of gives CGC more of an impetus to help understand, or to help understand what's in front of them. And also conservation, like restoration, is something that's applied to the book. It's detectable. Pressing is, you can't really tell 100% of the time the book's been pressed. You're not changing really the book. You're not adding to the book. You're just kind of trying to bring it back to its original condition. Mm-hmm. So conservation, like restoration, you're adding to it. And so there's kind of like a black and white to it, where it's restored, it's conserved. The question is, what's been done to it? How has it been done? What is the outcome? And so the last question is kind of answered by the first question, which is, how do you help, I guess, convey that information to us? And it is to put notes on the book, because we do actually read that. As long as it doesn't fall off, if it makes it to the grading room, then we'll actually read that and look at the work on the book and understand the goals. I think I understand at this point, that the community that's formed with conservation, I understand what the goals are. And so it's really a question of execution at that point.
Can I ask you a quick question? Well,
yeah.
Not to cut you off, but have you seen an increase of books submitted that have notes like this attached? I'm curious, like, just due to the community of people submitting books, or do you find a lot of people submit them blind, just assuming that it will be graded as it should be?
There's probably, I don't know if there's an increase. I mean, it's such a small subset of books that
that's
understandable. And the other question is, the graders, we don't, like, nobody's directing anything anywhere. It's like we have graders assigned to tiers. And so, but there's obviously a lot of, cross grading going on, where you've got people getting other people's opinions, second grades, third grades. So there's a lot of, even though a conserved book may end up with this grader over here, they're going to go, okay, what's going on here? And they're going to start getting other opinions. And so inevitably, it's going to end up getting discussed in the room. And so, it really comes down to execution of the work, because I've noticed with leaf casting in particular, and cleaning, I guess, going along with that, there's various people at various levels of experience. And obviously there's an ideal that that we have that formed in our head from what we've gone through with restoration, what we've gone through with pressing, what we're now going through with lightning. Conservation, it falls into that same thing where the goal is for the book to ultimately feel natural when it's all said and done. And so in all four of those cases, and so that's how we're judging conservation. So really, we see it, we know it's there. It's sometimes it's more evident to some graders than others, depending on how the work is executed. But that's the whole point of them getting up and asking and being like, okay, what am I looking at? There are times where, work goes through and gets a restored grade that the goal is conserved. That's happened. But, we're always willing to look at work again to reassess it. Yeah. And that's something that I think that I'm particularly careful with doing with conservation because of the altruistic goal of it. Sure. Pressing is, that's a much larger scale. Everybody, the high grades, unrestored, all that, different animal. Conservation, I really love, how it's kind of aimed at the lower grade books and saving them, resuscitating them. Yeah. And so I want to support that by, so leaving that door open that, we'll always take into consideration, what was done. And if it requires some kind of guidance, then we'll provide that, through customer service cases, trying to keep that Chinese wall up. So,
do you find yourself in a position where you have to go to the graders and say, this is a conserved book. This is what one looks like. This is not restoration.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a curve. You know, everybody's got to learn it.
Yeah, the grader is going off of, again, piece fill versus leaf casting, old school versus new school. The cleaning that produces covers that maybe end up being a little more threadbare. There's dimensional change. These are things that the graders are very acutely aware of, or they're very, very sensitive to, because they're dealing with this in pressing, they're dealing with this in lightning. And so, conservation, when they have a cover that feels, anything that feels a little off, they tend to kind of, go at it. And that's why it's a good, reason for them to get other opinions. Sometimes, like I said, we're going through a ton of books and we see, keep in mind, every grader is seeing all kind of crazy stuff every day. They're seeing color touch with ballpoint pen. They're seeing maybe a trimmed book here and there.
Yeah.
Kind of old work from the 80s. They're seeing new work from the, past 20 years. They're seeing lightning. They're seeing pressing defects. They're seeing, and so they're getting hit with all kind of things.
It's overwhelming. Yeah.
It's over. Yeah. So sometimes, and so the best thing to do is just establish guidelines for you guys to understand, what CGC's expectations are. So you can, that's the learning curve to get that. Yeah. So the grader, gets it right every time, or gets it what you'd like it to be every time.
Yeah.
So the books that are conserved are not going to a specific person. They're going to whoever gets them within their tier. I think it's fair to say if it's a golden age book, it's probably going in front of somebody who's seen conservation more often, just because modern books are conserved and restored less often and less of the bulk of it. And so if you are submitting something golden age, it's already going before somebody who's seen many, 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 many restored and conserved books. But if you're sending some modern book in, it's going in front of somebody who just doesn't cross their desk as often.
Yeah, you're right. The golden age, you can't flag conserved books. You can't flag color touch books. You can't flag press books because no one knows. It's
going to the tier graders. It's going to the grader according to the tier.
The grader's the first person taking the book out examining it. So, but you can separate golden age and silver age and bronze and copper and modern. And so you're right in the fact that the graders that are handling the golden age are going to come in contact with that a lot more. It does rarely pop up on modern or bronze or whatever, very rare, at least what we're talking about. So yeah, you can isolate it to some degree. But it's there are new people doing this and you guys, I mean, everybody's always looking. I imagine you guys are trying to evolve and change and get,
it's a growing process.
People, we're trying to help people with what we consider to be best practice. And, ordinarily I'll form an opinion that's based mostly on the paper conservation literature, and I'll run it by you, Matt, and I'll talk to my fellow conservators. And then when we kind of coalesce on something, then I'll put it out as saying, this is what I believe is best practice and here's why. And we did that with respect to the conservation notes. I gave like a template. I said, this is what I do. I say, these are the things that have been done. And I actually put the reference to the scientific literature in there. I used the method of Hayes et al. From 94 for this deacidification, et cetera, right? I don't expect everybody to do that, but I think that's like best practice, right? Then what's been done with what materials, et cetera. So I'm trying to summarize your answers. So no, they're not flagged for conservation. They go to the tiers. Sorry, let me refer back to this real quick. You do want us to send in graders notes. They are read. They are appreciated. Yeah. And do we ever think that you would add somewhere who the conservator was on a book as sort of part of the provenance of it? I know people would talk about like, I'd like to own a book that Kenny Sanders worked on, or I'd like to own a book that Phil worked on from Phantom Studios.
I probably not.
Yeah.
Probably. I think that might be, that's an interesting question. And I'm trying to think of the past with the restorers and then the pressers. And then, our job as CGC to like grade the book in front of us and put a grade on and move on.
Well,
I don't know. I could see. That's interesting. I don't know if I mean, the short answer is no. We're probably not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because that would be really
you're showing favoritism.
Or it could be. Or it's just, the logistics are probably very difficult.
It could go either way, favoritism, or it could be a scarlet letter. I mean,
that's a good better way of looking at it. Yeah,
the books Dr. Paul worked on sell for 10% of what others do.
And also people's work changes over time. So if someone did it 10 years ago and we put somebody's name on it, well, that doesn't necessarily reflect their reputation. Sure. Good or bad.
Sure.
It is. Well, the person that's selling it can always tout it as this was restored by.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I'll sign the outside of your CGC holder if you want me to.
Put a sticker on the holder.
Plus, every person's using different techniques for their conservation too. Yeah. Not everybody deacidifies a book. Sure. But there's still conservation, so it's different techniques.
Matt, there's a question in the chat I think you can answer pretty quickly, and we noticed detailed graders notes. Collect-a-Comic is saying for restored books B1, B2 have gone missing online, even on older certs. We noticed that there were graders notes got lost for a moment, and then they came back. I thought, that's database management issues.
It's database management issues, and I need to address that again. I brought that up. Clearly, it wasn't fixed, so we need to get that back up there running. So I apologize for that. That should be up there.
I mean, that it may have been fixed. I don't know. Collect-a-Comic, if you can find specific examples, or you can send them into. I imagine, Matt, the best thing to do is if you find specific examples, flag them and send them into the help desk.
Well. No. I mean, it's like you can tell in a second. Just put a restored book into the lookup on the main page, and if the restoration notes don't pop up, it's not there for any of them. So I think.
But the point is, you didn't do this on purpose. It was a database migration issue that happened.
Yeah. We changed the POP report. We just did a massive overhaul on, which is great. And there was something, that apparently disappeared. So we had to get that back. But there's nothing nefarious. We're not trying to hide anything.
Yeah. And I wanted to give you a chance to go on record. I thought we had talked about that, but I just wanted to give you a chance to go on record since that was in the chat there.
Yeah. I will make a note to get that back.
So Matt, this is actually, I said I went through all these questions and I thought, almost all of them the answers are in your book, but one that did surprise me and I don't know the answer to is right here. So there were a lot of questions about staples. I'll summarize them by saying, if we replace staples or if we clean or otherwise sort of de-age staples, de-rust them, etc., is there ever a time when that should be in universal? And what are the guidelines or rules for when it would be restored versus when it would end up conserved? And then this is the one I did not know this. Qualified? That I don't understand that one. Help me understand. Help everybody understand.
That's a new.
I don't know how that. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's just a mistake.
So all right. So I did. Qualified is the most enigmatic category.
It's kind of a catch-all, isn't it?
Yeah. Cass and I did a video on qualified labels, just qualified labels a few months ago. It's interesting. But okay, so staples is complicated. So you got, let's say, 4 levels. You got universal, qualified, conserve, restored, and one trumps the other below it, right? Okay, so back in the day, Paul, back before the conserve label, which came out, I believe, in 14, if a comic had replaced staples, it went to a qualified holder. Not restored. I don't know why. It was before I was there.
That was before you were there, yeah.
Yeah, so I've tried to adjust a few things. I mean, they got most of it right, and there's a couple things between.
Sure, yeah. But to your point, those books before CGC decided that pressing was okay, there's actually some purple label books out there that are restored grade that they just say restoration includes book was pressed. I've actually seen some that just say pressed.
Oh, just pressed. Interesting.
I think that's like really old. Presumably, if they were sent back in, they would be universal today, right?
Yeah. There's probably a good chance of that. Yeah. Yeah. But
I didn't mean to derail you, but I thought that parallels, before you can only do what you can do since you've been to CGC, and they already had very good systems in place. But you, as I talked about in the intro, I think brought it up a level and unified it and made it make a bit more sense. But there's still some of these vestigial grades.
Yeah, well, I just realized I've been there almost half of the 25, 26 years, going 26 years. So, yeah, look, early on there was a lot of adjusting that was going on the first year or two, but I mean they got it kind of set pretty quick for the most part, and it really didn't need a lot of tweaking, in my opinion. But yes, 2000 to 2014, replace staples was qualified. So you'll see the old labels that you got that. So conserve comes along in 14, and we move that into conserved. But there's one exception, and that would be tape, the presence of tape, because tape prevents a book from getting a conserved grade. So if you have a book that has replaced staples and tape, then it goes back to qualified. So you'll see books grade after 14 with replaced staples. The book has tape on it.
There you go, people. See, these corner cases do make sense. You just have to understand. So tape can never be on a conserved book. So if you otherwise have a conserved book, but there's tape on it, it's got to go. It gets bumped somewhere else, right?
Right. If there's restoration plus tape, or no, conservation plus tape, then it goes restored. And then that would be the other reason why you replace staples would end up is if you had trimming or other restoration or tape. No, not tape. Trimming or other restoration would now put replace staples and restored. Just tape would move to qualified. But of course, you could always pop the staples out and get a universal. You can go all the way back to the universal grade. Now the question then becomes a grade difference, because the max grade on staples missing is 3.5. So if you have a 2.0 qualified graded in 2010 with replaced staples, pop them out.
Yeah.
You get a 2.0, right?
Yeah.
So, or if you have a 4.5 that goes qualified 4.5 or a conserved 4.5 that goes to a blue 3.5 by popping staples out. So there's ways you can kind of play with it. The bottom line is that with or without the staples, I feel like the book's going to be safe, because it's in the holder. It's, the point of the staples is to hold the book together. If they're not there, but it's in the holder, fine. The big thing is that if they're rusty, that's a problem long term. And so, replace staples really is a good thing, which is why moving to conserve in the first place. So a book with rusty staples is better off having replaced or no staples than rusty staples.
Well, how about another question that's popped up is we pop a staple, it's broken, so we want to replace it. But we replace it with the same era vintage staple. Now, is that still going to show up as staples replaced, or is that going to possibly keep it into universal? That's a question that's come up.
Yeah, no, theoretically, they have to be replaced. They have to be considered replaced because they're foreign to the book. It's just like adding a piece or some color.
Okay.
Now, I will admit that it's in some cases it's difficult to tell when it's well done if staples, if one set of vintage staples is replaced with another, because typically, the two ways you can tell replaced staples historically is you got a bunch of rust stain on the paper and you got silver staples. Okay, that's your old school staples.
Yeah, that's obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, or the staples are, they're post. How can I say, the store-bought staples, where the prongs have angled tips, or there's like a little strip in the middle of the thing. You can tell those, but in today's world, if you took a book without rusty staples and you replaced it with other non-rusty staples from the same time period, on a lower grade book especially, it would be harder to tell. But we should, by our rules, we consider those replaced staples, and they should be going into a conserved.
Okay, good answer.
Yeah.
So it ought to be conserved. I want to take a moment to say what's up to Travis Moriarty and a couple questions. Welcome, Jilliams, about your grading book, and is it coming back into print?
Eventually, yeah. It'll be a race between that and Treasure Editions. What comes out first?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. The
Eru, welcome to the show. I had the same question. And Kilted Corgi's back. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. No. Eventually there will be a second edition. What's interesting is that not the landscape. That's probably too big of a word. Things have changed subtly, or even new things that have been in the picture since the book was released. So now I'm like, okay, well, I've got to add this chapter. I've got to make a change to this paragraph or whatever. And so I'm like, well, gosh, now how long do I wait? Because I kind of feel like the longer I wait, the more I'll change and it'll be accurate. But inevitably, you have to just pull the trigger, right? And just,
of course,
change it. But
believe me, where were we going to draw the line with this? Shelby and I, we set a goal for ourselves, and we said we could continue to edit and add to this book for our lives, but you got to draw the line somewhere.
Oh yeah, you got to draw the line somewhere. So same thing with the first edition, but no, eventually, I mean, I don't know, let's say 2 years, 3 years, I mean, there's still copies floating around. So I mean, I think
actually. I think Shelby still has the ability to get some for folks. So maybe reach out to Shelby at Shelby's Comics on IG. And I think he can hook you up if you're looking for a copy. Tone Hawk Dog, welcome to the show. We appreciate you. All right. Staples. We did staples. Mm-hmm. Let's do cover cleaned. Although we could have transitioned straight into tape. But let's do cover cleaned and we'll come back to tape. So cover cleaned similarly sometimes lands in the restored, sometimes land in the conserved, and occasionally folks who are getting quite good at full aqueous bath and sub it and get universal. And we talked about that in our book as well with you, Matt. And so folks have this question and they'd like your feedback. I think what it comes down to is, as you've said before, you have to grade the book as you see it in your hands, right? And I think it comes down to essentially how well the cleaning was done and that feel of the paper, but take it away.
Yeah. So ultimately the goal is always for any enhancement done to a book to return it to its natural state, what it was originally. And so I guess what we're talking about really applies to not only old school cleaning or current cleaning methods, but also the new lightning methods that have been going around. I don't know. I think that might be a follow-up question. But it all kind of ties together in that, there's kind of a spectrum of cleaning, right? You've got the current cleaning methods, which are probably more like the old school methods where you disassembly, aqueous bath, introducing, whatever to kind of clean it. Maybe you lose some sizing, original sizing, you replace the sizing, whatever, you're deacidifying. The goals here are conservative, and that's less of a concern about crossing that line into a conserved grade with a cover cleaning. But then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is like the cover lightning, the photo bleaching, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of achieving the same thing, but trying to do it with the goal of getting a blue label. And that's strictly a new thing. But in both cases, the goal, or like you said, we're looking at the book in front of us. And for us, for a blue label, is to make sure that the book, it looks like it does or should in its natural state. So the bullet points on that are going to be, obviously, its feel, its look. It's threadbare is a big thing. Limp, the page, if it's gloss, it's gloss, which would be its sizing that's come out. Dimensional change, expansion, shrinkage on either side, depending on the era of the book. What's been the whiteness of the cover. That's a big thing, particularly in relation to the interior. If you have a book that's very brown in the inside and it's very white on the outside, or if the book is very unnaturally white. So, we've seen like a million Avengers and X-Men 1s and FF1s with white covers, but if you see one that's like, it's just like too white. White. So that's
brilliant.
the point across as well. And so, these are the things that we're looking at Or another one is actually like the big one that we used to do, or we did with traditional cover cleaning, is the interior exhibits defects that are not present on the cover. So, like for instance, big water stain through the corner of the book, and the cover is like white, and there's and the book's been taken apart, and it feels a little, maybe a little threadbare, or even a little too thick because they put sizing back on the cover, whatever the case is. These are all indications that will push a book into a clean cover. Now, these days, most of the time, it's going to be conserved. Restored for cover cleaning is really reserved for like the really bad, cleanings that we really don't see much anymore, particularly with over the past 3 years with people getting up their learning curve. In conjunction with other restoration, older work, yes, you might get a B cleaning because of whatever case, but there's also other stuff going on like color touch and piece fill that could push you to a B. But typically, people today are walking the line between conserved and universal. That's the line. Some people are fine with conserved. That's always the goal. And some people are trying to achieve universal. And that's what we're looking at in the grading room with those books is, are they checking off these boxes? If any of them are too much, it's not natural, it could push it into the conserved category.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
So if I were to summarize that, cleaning is acceptable if it has a minimal impact in terms of a whole host of things, but consistency, paper quality, paper color, reflectivity, paper texture, stiffness of the paper, dimensions of the paper, etc. A lot of things. If it's all of those things, then it's probably going to stay universal. If it's noticeable, but not poor quality, so some of those things, just a little bit off in the texture, just a little bit off in the dimensions, just a little bit off in the reflectivity, etc., conserved. If it's really off work, restored, or if it was done quite a long time ago, it might be in a restored. If it was resubmitted today, it'd be reevaluated. And if there was an absence of anything else that would kick it into restored, it's probably going to land conserved today.
Correct. Yeah.
What summary of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a good number of purple labels from back in the day that would transition into conserved today. Absolutely.
Right.
Or in the case of that Flash one, potentially universal too, which is, I would say, kind of the exception, not the rule, but clearly a case where it's possible at least, which is
well, there was other restoration removed, so there was no at that point reason.
To be fair, exactly. But we're only talking about the cleaning.
There's been a few instances of books we nailed for cleaning 20 years ago that we reassessed and decided it wasn't clean. There's a few instances of that.
I'm sure they're few and far between, but even having it be a possibility, I mean, just from a professional standpoint, cracking out a restored book to potentially get universal, and now knowing, well, really, it could go conserved, but in a rare instance like that Flash, it was being prepped to have leaf casting and everything else done, but the fact that it was able to do that is incredible. From a collector standpoint, from an equity standpoint, and it's prepped to be casted now, but just at this point in time, that's the best state it can be in. But it's still, I got more people reaching out about that and had this conversation with people in the last couple of months. So thank you again for your help with that. But it also, to me, showed a clear marker in time and how CGC is viewing these cleanings. And it's totally understandable. It all makes sense, but it's exciting,
like hitting the lottery.
Well, one thing I wanted
in that case it was.
One thing I wanted to bring up though is what Paul said at the beginning is if the aqueous bath is done well and correctly, and it meets those standards of that universal label where it didn't change, the appearance is still there. Yes, because I get a lot of people saying if you do an aqueous bath, it's restored. That's it. They're just purple label.
They just don't know it. By the way, we published in our book that was the standard.
It
Again,
is.
most of the stuff is out there, even though people don't understand it. And sometimes the people that know the least are the loudest on the internet. So.
Yeah, that I agree with that, because I've done it myself. I've done several aqueous baths, and they come back with a universal label.
Yeah.
It's not a automatic purple label. Just for clarity of the audience out there watching.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Larry, you're absolutely right. In my own experience back in the day, golden age covers, which is I think what you mainly operate in that era, they stand up so well to aqueous baths. And it
like
depends
tanks,
on what's in the water. It depends on how long it's in the water. It depends on there have been times in the past where I dunk a cover and take it out, and it still feels natural, and so you can get away with a lot more with golden age covers. Silver age,
can.
You
look at it the wrong way.
Silver age, no.
Welcome to the show, Travis Moriarty, Reef, the Sea Forever. Thank you, Juris, for joining us. Juris has a question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Is there a list of conservators that would be accepted as A level?
Ooh, well, it depends on the book in front of us, and ideally a conservator, gets to a point where every single book that they touch is going to be A level, and I think that's the case for most people at some point in their career. But I learned this in pressing. I would press. There was a book here and there that I would screw up. I'm going to use the F word. I'm not going to do that.
My mom watches the show, Matt. Thank you.
Family channel.
A bunch of degenerates here. No, but no, seriously though, it's like so it's like you really have to be. It has to be judged on the book by book. Because we all mess up, and but so I think, but generally speaking, you guys are in a great company here. I mean, everybody here is. Moving fast up their learning curve. If not, they're already at the top. So, I like the idea that there's a community that's formed here of you guys. I love this, in that, not only is conservation altruistic, but, now you have a community that's kind of forming around that. And so I think that just kind of a tide that raises all boats. And so, that's, I think, is only going to just lead to more professionalism, a higher level of quality and excellence in the future. And so I think, generally speaking, all these people in these guys' orbit are professionals and certainly can be trusted.
Oh, that's kind of you to say, but still the work is judged as the work. Yeah. And in fact, the graders don't know who did the work, right? They're blinded. They're blinded.
Big old note on it. We recognize your handwriting.
I'm just going to post this really quickly. We're going to get to this, but I'm pretty sure this is a burner account for somebody that really wants this question answered. I have it in a later slide. I'm just calling you out because I think it's funny. All right. Let's go to our next favorite topic, tape. And I dug up a copy of the Howard Rogofsky note. I did not highlight it. But everybody knows in here in this paragraph, stated very emphatically, is tape is not a defect. and I think you mentioned, Matt, earlier, the one corner case that I think really still trips people up on this. And so we got a lot of questions about it. We continue to get a lot of questions about it. I thought I'd give you an opportunity. I put tape is always universal and is now treated as a defect, correct? And I know that's not correct, but I'm going to let you respond to that. And then a little bit more nuanced, but like when we start talking about the value of the book and the grade, if something is completely ripped off and it's loose from the book, if we send that in, it's not going to end up in the slab. So if we want to sort of keep all the pieces with the book, and maybe we're not a conservator or we don't want a conserved grade, what are the consequences of taping that corner back on in terms of the grade it will get, maybe, and how that's looked at and treated. So that's just a jumping off point to talk about tape. And if you don't bring up the corner case that I think is really interesting, I will. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, I'll do my best. So two questions, two answers here. So the first one is tape is considered defect. Sorry, Howard. restoration. Which maybe if he had said that would have been interesting. Sometimes it's considered a defect. It depends on the grade of the book. So, just for a little backstory here, I mean, most people probably realize this now, but tape technically is restoration. Technically, it's like rice paper, it's like glue. It's closing splits and tears and reattaching pieces and covers. So, it's technically restoration, but there's like mountains and mountains of tape on comics over the years. So like CGC opened and 25 years ago, and it was going to be just a disaster if we had put taped books in restored whole. Can you imagine all the
there were going to be a lot of whales with big books that were just going to refuse to get them slabbed because they didn't want them. And then those books wouldn't end up being preserved and wouldn't trade hands in the same way, et cetera, right?
Right. And also the dealers had never treated it like restoration anyway. So, I mean, it was just carrying that thought process over. So now eventually there came a point, I remember before I joined the team, where people figured out that if they applied tape to fix things, they could get a slightly better grade. And so when I came in, one of the first things that we did was to identify not only tape as a defect, but that any repairs that it was fixing or any repairs that it made were going to be ignored and furthermore downgraded because of the presence of tape. So a primary example would be like a fully split spine, which is a 1/8, an otherwise nice cover. If you tape that spine back together, maybe back before then you could have squeezed out a 2 or a 2.5. Well, now you get a 1.5 because it's a 1/8, but now you have tape on the books that goes to 1.5. So that was the point of that was to discourage the use of tape to repair books. The phase of that was getting it off the label because tape had always been on the label and people hated that and they wanted the label to be free of notes. And so people would we eventually they would actually, let me think, when they were taping books, there was somebody that actually would tape books and he didn't. And I'm like, but it goes on the label. It's like you're actually hurting the value of the book because you've got a note on the book. So anyways, we did away with that. We got that off the label. And so now we've gotten to another phase where you brought up the second question, which is reattaching a piece. You don't want the piece floating around. You don't want to be, lose or obviously tucked in the book and the book's downgraded. And so what we've now done is, or we've done this actually for a while, is archival tape. So archival tape is a good happy medium. It's not restoration, but it's not, Scotch tape that's going to hurt the book over time. But it serves the same purpose as tape. You're not going to get the upgrade, but at least you get some stabilization to the book without getting a conserved grade. So the perfect example, in fact, the only example is really reattaching a piece. Like covers and spine splits and tears and stuff. I tell people don't tape it.
Don't do it.
Don't mess with it. It's fine. But if you have a big old piece that's like off the back cover that we can't put in the holder, that's the perfect time to put a little piece of archival tape on it. And so the important thing though is that to make sure that the archival tape doesn't look like rice paper.
It's gotta look like tape.
Because if we see that, because it's very similar. So if you archival tape that looks like rice paper, we're going to give it a conserved grade. And so just some very neatly applied a little bit of archival tape to reattach a piece, and of course that will be noted in the grader's notes, piece reattached with tape. I believe, I don't know if we put archival tape, but we should. They're the Action 1 7.0 conserved. No. Sorry. I'm thinking of another book. Never mind. Scratch what I said. There's a book coming you guys don't know about yet. Hold on. Never mind.
Oh, okay. We'll know about it soon, though.
Archival tape in the notes. Look for it. You'll know what I'm talking about. But there was no way around it. Let's just put it that way.
Sure. So reattaching a piece is recommended. Please use archival tape.
Now, I think we've talked before too about the width of the archival tape, using a thin strip so it might get confused as rice paper. Make it so it's clear it is archival tape. That way you avoid that conserved label.
Yeah, rectangle. Yeah, like a piece of tape.
Yeah, make a rectangle out of it. Don't make it fancy or curved or whatever. Just put it's tape. So just accept it as tape.
Look like, but it's archival tape. Yeah.
But there is one goofy corner case. So if I have a book and it's otherwise universal and I put some Scotch tape on it, it's still going to be universal. It's just going to be downgraded with the defect. If I have a book that has some other conservation on it, so it would otherwise be considered conserved, but I put Scotch tape on it, I no longer get the free ride with Scotch tape for universal. I now get bumped to restored.
Right. Exactly.
And that that is a mind bender. That one does confuse people.
But that's got to be the tape serving a purpose. It's not just
a bizarre
on it, right?
corner case where, in this situation, if you have other stuff on the book that is going to land it in conserved, don't put tape on it ever.
Right. Well, let me ask you this.
It's contraindicated, right? Like you don't want to do that.
If any of you guys got a book to conserve and that was the goal and it had tape on it, you would take the tape off, right?
Absolutely. Right. No question.
So when would a book turn up with conservation and tape?
I can't even think of a scenario.
I get it. No, I see how you get there. And I do think it is the correct logical conclusion. But then when you try to reconcile that with the fact that in a universal book, tape gets a free pass, even shitty Scotch tape, then you go, well, wait a minute. I feel like I'm getting punished, whereas this other book gets a free ride, even though it's using really horrific Scotch tape. And so I think you're right in that when you walk down that path, it's very logical where you land. But if you come at it through a different path, you go, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. And I think that's why people struggle with that.
Yeah.
When should I use tape?
So that's so interesting. So that to kind of summarize, a book with just tape gets universal, but a book that's conserved with tape gets shoved the other direction into restored.
Exactly.
It's very punitive.
It seems unfair.
Yeah. Interesting. So then the book needs to be sent to one of y'all that take the tape off. So
it's a good point.
Just don't add the tape.
Matt, to your point, I for a second I was like, no, there's no way I wouldn't have considered this scenario already. But you're right. It just hasn't come up. Like in my experience, that just doesn't happen. If you're already conserving and you're already taking the tape off, so it just doesn't come up. It's such a rare, isolated incident.
It's probably books that were worked on 20 years ago or 30 years ago that somehow ended up with the two things, and
modern times nobody's putting tape on books, like Scotch tape on books. The tape we've been removing is from 30, 40 years ago.
For the most part.
It's crystallized, it's left stains in the paper, it's ruined the paper. That's the stuff we're removing.
Some of it's even older than that, right? I mean,
I think tape and trimming are the two banes of existence for comics that I think we've done a good job mostly banishing over the past 20, 25 years. That tape is
punishing harshly enough. And to your point, Matt, I mean, you can only be, I shouldn't say held responsible, but clearly you had no influence on things that happened at CGC before you got there. Right. And the state of how certain things were treated in the BM days before Matt. Oh, BM has other connotations. In the days before Matt, I mean, you've come in and you've done your best to consolidate, make them make more sense going forward. But there are still books in old slabs, and they would be treated differently today.
Well, and it's also important to keep in mind that the market those first 10 years was vastly different than what it is now. I mean, I don't want to say vastly, but in terms of the scope of what we're talking about in the world that you guys live in, that didn't exist back then, or at least it did on a microcosm. It was different. CGC was all about universal grades, high grades, mostly vintage books. Even the modern market had really not taken off at that point. Right. It was dealing with a much smaller group of submitters, a much smaller group of collectors of CGC. And so the rules were, defined. It's like, okay, here's our grading standards. Here's some restoration standards. Let's go. And then it just inevitably over time, collecting has evolved, grading has evolved, expectations have evolved, and so what's it called? Enhancements have evolved, which is causing everything else to evolve. So it was inevitable that luckily CGC has changed with the times, and kept up with them and tried to stay in the forefront of it, to make sure that they're aligned with what movements are taking place in the industry right now.
That conserve label change made my profession possible.
Yeah,
initially, really.
That was a game changer.
No one's going for purple labels. Here, I want to get the best, please. I want you to color touch this. I got 2 clients that do that out of all.
It's becoming more and more mainstream in the values of conserved book, because it's been preserved. It's been conserved. It's not going to deteriorate inside of a slab. It's going to last another 100 years because it's been literally conserved.
So bravo for that, Matt. Really, thank you.
It was long in the coming. I got it pushed through. I got there, and I think within a little bit more than a year after I got there, we got it through. I think it was necessary. It was not, I think it was, there was a lot of people that were aware of that needing to be done. So, here we are, 10, 12 years later. I love it. I think, it's really, isn't it crazy how the color of a label changes everything?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody hates purple.
Well,
Matt, I've had
it's not that crazy, Matt. You helped create that world, right? Just to your point earlier of saying something like, I think we've really discouraged trimming enough so that more or less people have stopped trimming, which is great, right? And I think it's due in no large part to grading, professional grading that discerns, and discerning buyers, and the free market deciding the values of those books. And in the same vein, conserved books now demonstrably sell for more than restored books. And that was one of your major goals. And the goal has been accomplished. Now, hopefully they'll continue to be differentiated even further from restored books over time. And I think they will, but
I hope so too.
It wasn't an accident. So when you say, isn't it crazy? I'm like, I don't think it's crazy, Matt. You created that world in part, right?
No, you're right. You're right. But
I'm giving you credit.
Thank you. Yeah. It's I think the crazy part is what I mean is how can I say it? A lot of people don't really understand when they see different colored labels what goes in, what's behind those different purple label, conserve label, whatever. And so I just think that the mindset that's tied to blue, is it runs so deep that
there's still some haters on conserve books too.
But
most definitely.
Well, what I mean is, it's like, okay, so you had purple and blue right back in the day, and there was a big gap, and the gap got bigger and bigger and bigger in the early 2000s. Conserve comes along, and I swear to God, I really do believe most people probably don't understand. They don't understand conserve. They don't understand restored.
Right.
But the fact that the conserve label is mostly blue, with that beautiful little silver label, that I think is a contributing factor to the valuations being higher.
It is.
Thank you. Yes.
Statistically speaking, they should be worth more, and we understand that. And that's what we're talking about. But most people are just going, well, it's mostly blue. That's going to be worth more.
I feel better about it. I should open my wallet a little wider.
There's a lot of casual. I don't mean to use there's a lot of collectors who only understand the specifics casually. So I'll have clients who I'll give them the spiel, and then they'll look and say, can you make this blue? And they only care, can I make this blue? Can this go conserve? All those specifics. It's like trying to teach people another language sometimes. So, and these
especially
are people that want to spend, they want to spend $80,000 or hundreds of thousands of dollars on books still, but they don't need to understand all that specifics, and some of them don't want to. They just care about what you said, Matt.
The blue label,
and it's important because it really does delineate a difference in what's been done, but just it's silly how that stigma makes a difference, but it really did.
I think a conserved book should be worth more than a universal book, because it's been preserved,
de-acidified. That's I think everything. I'll take everything else out of the equation: photo bleaching and cleaning, stain, or whatever. De-acidification to me ultimately should be worth the most because now
Rewarded,
you know
yeah.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I feel like we'll see books that have only had that done that will sell at a higher price versus ones that are universal otherwise, but we know are because we understand the mechanics of what's been done, and if it's been deacidified, we know the counterpart that hasn't. If nothing else is done, in 100 years, one will be,
one will be there, the other won't.
The other will. So why wouldn't there be a benefit done to that if you look at the book and you can't see any difference?
I guarantee you, if you could find a way to mass deacidify, number one, number two, you could do it in a way that made the book feel natural, like pressing, and number three, there was a way for us to test that a book had been deacidified, proven. If those three conditions could be met, we would absolutely put deacidified somewhere, Grader's Notes label, whatever the case is, to try and promote the fact that book's been deacidified. But those are big hurdles, especially
the biggest one is a non-destructive pH test on urine.
Yeah, it's too expensive though.
Mass deacidification is another huge hurdle.
Shelby mentioned something earlier in the chat, and this is to go hand in hand, Larry, with you saying you've done full washes on Golden Age books and got gotten universal labels. Part of that is, to my understanding, the volatility of the cover alone. So, sometimes you get dimensional changes. Matt, as you've mentioned, though, the Golden Age covers are, they're tanks, compared to their Silver Age counterparts. But where I'm going with this is, if you wash just deacidify just the interiors of books, and there's no dimensional change, there's no other change, then theoretically you could get a bump in page quality, but it would retain universal labels if there's no other tells that it's been done. So there is some incentive to deacidify a book and get a bump in the page quality. So, unless I'm mistaken, right?
Yeah, no, and the page quality bump is the real time benefit. Like there's a benefit that
quite literally, yeah.
But if you I'm picturing deacidification on a large scale where there is no tangible benefit except for the fact that it's been deacidified. It's the most purest altruistic thing, because people would only pay for it. That's the thing, you have to get people to pay for it with no visual change or grade change or value change, only for the altruistic reason of saving the book. And so the only way that they're going to pay for that is if it could be done on a massive scale. You could scale it and charge almost nothing. Like, let's say CGC did it and it was an add-on fee for $3, right? It's like, you want your book deacidified, $3, put on the label. Like that's the end game where the only way you could get people, because if you deacidify a book here and there, that's great, but really, they all need to be deacidified. Everything pre 2000, whatever.
All of them.
So that's the end game to me, and I don't know. That's still we're ways off from that.
Yeah.
Well, so few people are doing it, so that's the thing.
Yeah. Even on a big Golden Age book, there's incentive to. From like you said, just from a purely just wanting the best for the book. If you have a book that's slightly light tan to off white or cream to off white, and you deacidify it, and the page quality changes to off white, you've preserved it, and you also got a side benefit of a technical bump in the page quality. That's a benefit.
Yeah, that's a what's it called, a tangible benefit from that service, and that translates into money, and so incentive there. Sure. But that's only maybe.
But that's on a case-by-case basis, like you said. It's not. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. I promised that we would only keep you for 90 minutes, and we've got like a few more questions to get to. So I want to move on. I want to say hi to the Real Deal, Agent DeCamp. I want to say hi to the Comic Doctor and Aubrey. Welcome all to the show. I think I still I'm caught up with everybody. Oh, the Geek Easy's here. Welcome. Okay. Here's a book everybody here knows, and Peter, the Professor Alachi, is here, and this is his book. I told him this was going to happen, but he said, "I'm gonna find out for myself." Hey, Jim.
Yeah. I think we all told Peter this.
But a lot of people were confused by this, and there's still a lot of people that think you should be grading you should be grading the color match on Leafcast, and are campaigning for that all the time. But the question here is, so the professor used multi-layer leaf casting here so that he had black fibers casted on the cover here to match the background, and white fibers elsewhere, or off-white, to match the other colors. And the book came back with grader's notes, restored, as you can see, and with grader's notes that say color touched. And, in a strict reading of the word color touched, it means, somebody took like a pen or something exogenous or paint or whatever. And that is not what he did. He used dyed fibers, essentially. So help us understand your reasoning. Well, I shouldn't say help us. Help the viewers. I understand the reasoning. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we're crossing into aesthetic improvement, which is a conserved, under the conserved rules. Aesthetics is purposely left out. Get down to it. The dye in the pulp mix. I mean, is the dye on the same level as acrylic paint or watercolors, or
right.
certainly or pen or crayon? But the point is that the ink. The ink part of the process, creating a comic book, the ink is the aesthetic part. It's the part that's pleasing to the eye. The art is where it comes to life. We're looking at it. This is the part that's it's an aesthetic aspect of the book versus the structural, the paper and the staples. So if you're leaf casting to match, say, the white area, particularly the borders of the back cover, let's say, or if you're lucky, the white areas of the front cover, then you're matching it to the tint of the paper, which is more the the structural part of the book. So that's something that, I was talking to Kenny about this the other day. Kenny Sanderson. We don't downgrade or upgrade for whiteness match. Like the tint of the paper.
Because that's not the purpose of the conservation.
Right. And the vast majority of the time, we're dealing with books that are grading 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, maybe 5.0. In a very rare case, it's higher than that. And so, color matching that's a high level. That's like 8s, 9s, typical restoration. That's going to be a B or an A, or, an 8.0 versus 9.0, or whatever the case is. So it doesn't really matter in the grade anyway. But aesthetically, it's pleasing to the collector or any owner of the book to have the holder to look as natural as possible. And so when you're leaf casting just white, okay, yes, obviously if the paper's off white, but the leaf casting's white, or the opposite, it's brown, then it's not going to match very well. And so that's aesthetically, that's ideal, and it's acceptable because you're matching just the color of the paper. But when you move into the ink on the front cover, a grader's going to look at that and go, they're the dyes, acrylic mark, it's
Matt,
just color. You're in the color of the book.
Yeah, one of the other distinctions between conserved and restored is restored often has the potential to mask defects, and therefore it has the potential to lead somebody astray as to the actual content or originality of the book. And it therefore opens the door for someone to do something nefarious, to fool somebody, to get one over on somebody. And so in my mind, one of the good reasons to leave a line in the sand between conserved and restored is, in conserved, we don't have the opportunity for you to mislead somebody about the condition of the book. The things that have been done here are obvious to anybody looking more than a casual glance, and they're there to conserve the book, not to enhance it aesthetically, which, again, opens the door for somebody misleading somebody down the road about the book, whether it's cracked and sold as an original or whatever. So for me, I actually think that alone is a good enough reason to say we're not going to reward you for trying to color match pulp, even though, again, to match inks, even though, again, we recognize the technical mastery of the professor in accomplishing this is actually pretty astonishing. But it can't be rewarded in the grading system for that reason, because the next person who's less honest than the professor cracks that book and now attempts to sell it as an original or whatever. And so I think it makes sense from that standpoint as well.
No, yeah, I agree. That's another good point to think about it. Yeah, I think it's I don't want to say it's not bastardizing conservation, but it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? You're taking
compromising it.
There you go. Yeah, the altruistic aspect of conservation.
It's being manipulated a bit. Yeah.
Comic Doc, thank you. We appreciate you. Appreciate the super chat. We did already go through this extensively. You have to watch it on demand. All right. Sorry, because we're pressed for time and we have a few more things to get to. This was the maybe most valuable trimmed book, the one that I could find anyway. There may be more out there, so I thought this would be a good example to use for this conversation. So, Matt, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but quite a few questions from folks about any way that we could get to conserved from restored from a trimmed book,
from a fully trimmed book.
Yeah. So I'll let you take it away from there, and we can ad lib along the way.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is that I think it's laid out in the grading guide. I think
it is.
No, it is.
As I said, many of these things are, but
Yeah, a fully trimmed book, every page.
Matt,
every
the show would have been like one question, and we would have said everything else is in the book. People, get a life, go read. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, but the book says a fully trimmed book on 1, 2, or 3 edges. You cannot fill those edges to reverse the trimming notation. A cover, yes. A centerfold, yes. A couple of wraps, yes. An edge here and there, yes. But books that are chopped on all 3 edges to get back to now, I say that but I don't know if somebody these days, it's like the extent of work that can be done to a book. If somebody were to say obliterate the borders of every wrap down to the panels, rebuild them with leaf casting, are we going to be able to tell?
Right.
I don't know. I really don't know. And so, it's as far as, somebody wants to go with it, but I mean, hopefully they wouldn't go that far, because that's degradation to achieve, for monetary purposes. And I don't think that would be really a good thing, and so, but yeah, we get, it's, so the short answer is no, you're not supposed to, you cannot.
No. So let's talk about a couple corner cases. Matt, what if married pages is legal and conserved? What if I had a trimmed book and I found a complete cover, and I married that cover and I leaf cast all the internal pages? Can I get there?
Yeah, so it's just a matter of like where the demarcation line lies. Is it half the interior? Is it 3/4 the interior? 1/4? What are the cases? Is it 3 edges versus 2 versus 1?
Right.
What if you take the cover?
It's an original cover. Yeah, it's an original cover, but all the interior wraps. I mean, to your earlier point, we certainly know of projects that went in where every single interior wrap was casted. And if I've sourced a cover, an untrimmed cover, to put with those interior pages, can I get there? And I think your answer is I probably can't detect it, Paul. So I think you can get there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean,
but that's probably what it would take, because if you noticed that every wrap plus the cover, to your earlier point, maybe somebody could get away with that, but they would be heavily casting everywhere in a way that it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, like if you frame it in terms of conservation versus restoration, what we're talking about is what I'm talking about is restoration. Like you would have to, fill all the edges of all the wraps, the cover, color touch everything, do everything to everything, and mask everything. And so, the book's going to come out looking beautiful and great, and it's high grade, but it's going to get a restored label. But conservation, which would be obvious, I'm assuming, or at least evident. You go through the page and you go, clearly they filled all 3 edges. They're trying to, get rid of the trimming notation, but doing it within the conservation parameters. And honestly, if I could almost see that changing at some point because, again, this, the groundswell with you guys, with this community of conservators that are kind of moving in this direction. It's like I'm trying, there's promoting this kind of service is a good thing. And if you took a book that was trimmed and you conserved it, what are you doing to help the book? Like, is it a high grade? Like, what's the goal? Is it a 6.0 restored? Or like what? Tell me that. Let me throw it back at you. When would you have a book with all three edges trimmed that you would try to conserve without restoration, without resorting to restoration, to remove the trimming notation that would make it beneficial to do so with all that work?
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah,
question.
that's a good way to think about it too.
I think part of it is that you have quite a few hobbyists who don't have to value their work the same way Phil or Kenny or another professional would, right? It could be a labor of love that somebody just wants this book, sort of to accomplish that getting it out of that purple label. I mean, we've seen, look, I've spent time on a book that's completely not monetarily justified. I know practically everybody here has. I know the captain does on a regular basis, right? Yeah. We've seen Jerry the Jitterbug put 200 hours in a book that ultimately is maybe worth $300, right? So, so I think there are reasons people would do that, even if they're not driven by monetary.
Well, okay, but let's say you had a suspense 3 that had the right edge trimmed, all three edges trimmed, let's say, but it was just trimming, but it was otherwise like a 6.0, and then you leaf casted all the edges of all the wraps in the cover, and you were able to achieve, let's say, a 6.0 conserved. On that particular book, it would be worth doing, right? Because you're going from restored to conserved, keeping the grade the same. That's a value increase on a huge book. And so that's probably, so what you're talking about is a small pool of candidates where only trimming, it's the trimming is it, not the other restoration, it's only trimmed. And the goal is to get it from purple to a conserved when there's only trimming present on a book that's high enough grade and high enough in value that it would justify all the work put into it. That's what it would be. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you tell me, like, if a book's, if the paper's gone, it's gone.
Matt, let me ask you.
A missing piece and the edge trimmed. I don't know.
But let's say, because I have a client right now that has more fun the first Aquaman, and it's got some restoration on it that's structural. But one of the side notes is, I think it's top and right edge of cover and top and bottom edge of centerfold. So you have like 2 wraps with 2 edges on each wrap that have trimming. And my thought was that if all the other restoration was removed and both of those wraps were leaf casted, it could garner a conserved label because we're within the reasonable realm. We're not then talking, is it 8 wraps that each have, so the answer would be yes in that case, I would imagine.
Right, absolutely, yeah. 45, was it 15, 30, 48, 50, out of 50-something edges that could be trimmed, you've got 6 that are trimmed. You fill those, that should be fine. Yeah.
That's what
I knew we would get there. Get there, Aubrey.
Those seem to be the ones that I get asked about more frequently. It really is, again, kind of more the exception, not the rule, where you have a book that's perfect otherwise. That I mean, I guess maybe from a bound volume, that's perfect otherwise, but every edge is trimmed. But then it comes down to a cost, and then what would be the rationale? Like, why would it make sense to do it?
Yeah, right. It's a gray area. There's a bit of a gray area between,
but the answer there is usually to leave it alone. So it's more of an obvious answer than in that case. Whereas in the other case, it makes more sense to do it, and it makes sense in order to get the conserved label. It's okay within the rubric. So.
Yeah.
So I think, Matt, what you're saying is you need to think about it some more. Maybe it is possible.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, like
I was thinking in the context of, how many, the question you threw back, which is, could it be half the book? Could it be a quarter? Could it be 3/4? Whatever. I was thinking in the context of, we know the cover's like 80% of the grade. If it's all wraps plus the cover, then to your point, maybe you can fool us and you can get it, but we're not guaranteeing it. We're not really endorsing that. But if it's casted everywhere, every wrap, there are other reasons why you may do that. You may do that because the edge was chewed by mice, every edge, all through all wraps, right? There are other reasons why someone would do that. If they got there through that and you can't tell, you have to grade the book in front of you, then maybe that's a corner case where they can do that. My thought process is, if I married a cover, which is 80% of the grade, that wasn't trimmed, and then I casted all the interior edges that were trimmed prior, that ought to be something you can allow. But yeah, go ahead, react.
Yeah, so I was gonna say there's two things that occurred to me while you're talking. So firstly, the choose thing is hilarious because people will actually like chip away trimmed edges to try and get a universal label to make it look like it is choose, right? And so that's
yeah. We got there. There was another viewer that wanted that.
Wow.
Yeah,
and we got there. I knew we would get there. If we didn't, I was going to push us there. But go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it's annoying because you're basically doing more degradation in the book to try and get a better, value out of it. Oh,
value,
Lord.
Lower grade and higher value. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like that going the wrong direction. So, but the other thing to consider. Oh, so yeah, to your point though, it's like if you chewed it away and filled it, could you get it through? Maybe. But the other thing to consider is that the policing that goes on in this hobby, which is kind of like the umbrella over all of this that we're talking about, pressing. Pedigrees, everything, where people are watching, you've got a record online of a lot of these books. Once they're listed for sale and they're posted online, or we have an image up or whatever, then you may as well assume that somebody's got a record of it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so when a trimmed book comes back up, not trimmed, or restored, or a cleaned cover comes back, not cleaned, these are things that you tend to get a little bit of blowback from the public sometimes. And so that's kind of another thing to consider is, it's not only, the reputation of the book, but also, how is this going to cast, CGC in a positive or negative light?
Well, and I think disclosure, we've always said disclosure is 100%. Disclosure is sort of like consent in sex, right? Like if we're conserving books, you need to disclose everything you've done. And if you're not doing that, you're not acting in a professional or moral way. But you, again, have to deal with the book as it sits in front of you. I mean, if I'm a buyer of that book and it doesn't say trimmed, but it does say all 32 wraps have been leaf casted, I could presume possibly that leaf cast covered up trimming that occurred or rodent damage that occurred. It doesn't really matter to me at that point. I don't think it reflects poorly on you. That's just one consumer's opinion, but.
Yeah, no, I like it. No, now that we're sitting here hashing it out, I could see the argument for letting that go. And if you're going to take the time to cast the edges of a fully trimmed book, maybe,
I know. I'm thinking the same thing.
sorry. I don't say that tongue in cheek.
Yeah, so
it is exciting though, and
it
is. This is one of the reasons that this is so great to have you here, Matt, talking to us about this.
Yeah, it really is because we get some time.
This has become a community that didn't exist when I first started doing this work, and there's a.
God, we have almost 600 people in their group now.
Nice. And we're hopeful that other people in the community that didn't know you at all see that you are very much a member of the community yourself, despite your position.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope people don't. I don't want people to ever think of me as being up in my ivory tower and casting down judgment upon everybody.
You literally judge books for a living, Matt. Come on, you can't say you're not judging.
You see every single book that goes through there.
Well, I'm judging the book, but not the people. How about that?
That's right. Sometimes judging their work.
Yeah. I've never changed. I'm still me. I'm still, even though everything around us has changed, I'm still me.
Yeah. Matt, I have a question. So I want to thank Agent DeCamp for the super chat. This is kind of off topic from us, but money talks. So Agent DeCamp wants to know why there are no grader's notes on a 9.8 or a 9.9. Would like to know exactly what it was. I think you've answered this actually in other places. So maybe if you could really quickly do that, and then we have like 3 more quick topics and we can wrap
up. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, there could, I guess there could be. I guess the goal, what would be the, I guess the purpose is people want to know why it's not a 10. Do they want to know why it could be could it be a 10? Could it be a 9.9 from a 9.8, I guess. I think the 9.9 market has become kind of a phenomenon over the past several years. It wasn't really a thing back in, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. I think, it's one of those things that there's been a lot more focus and a lot more intensity placed on the 9.9 and 10.0 market, particularly in the modern side. So, given that, maybe, there's reasons to do that, but I think, it's like I kind of think of 9.9s when I think of like Bronze Age and Copper Age, like basically anything 90s back, even to early 2000s, like the chances of a 9.9 like on a Bronze Age book are like infinitesimally tiny, because to be honest with you, it's like we let a lot of stuff go in 9.8, and little bindery issues and staple issues and printing issues, and it's like there's a million reasons not to give a book a 9.9. So it's almost like there's a chance in hell of trying to get a 9.9 on a 70s book. But if you're talking about like a book that's come out in the past 20 years or something where the printing process has gotten a lot better, I guess there's some value in that. But I mean, if there was I guess we just really haven't seen a huge demand for it yet to kind of move in that direction. Because we grade a lot of moderns every day. We grade, most of them are going to be on that 9.6, 9.8, 9.9 cusp, occasional 10.0. And so I think, it would be a value added to people, if they had a note on a 9.8 or even a 9.9 for that matter.
Yeah. Kenny is now in the chat, by the way. Hi, Kenny.
So the other question, and again, this is a bit off topic for the conservation channel, but again, money talks, I guess. So on these modern books that have ink bleed right to the edge, and there is no white, the background is black, why do you still give a white pages notation?
On pages that are black, like modern comics?
Yeah.
The black. Yeah. Why do we give white? Well, I mean, there's always some part of the paper that's white somewhere that we can check.
Right. It's just not the gutter anymore. It's not the gutter anymore, right? Like it used to be the gutter all the way around. Now it's the word balloon or whatever that you're grading the color. Yeah.
It's funny because I would say that the vast majority of those kind of books are modern, and the vast majority of moderns are going to be white or maybe off-white. So that's kind of an easy, call. But what about it just popped in my head. What about the 3D ACG comics from the 50s that had the black border? I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The ones that were printed on pink paper.
Pink pages, the Phantom Ladies.
Right?
Yeah, we got the 5 books of the pink paper, ACG. I'm just playing devil's advocate where there are some old books from the 50s that have black borders where you can't rely on the outer edges of the pages to determine page quality, but
you're doing it off the word balloons. Yeah. Welcome to the show, Dan's Comics. Welcome, Kenny. I think welcome. I thought maybe.
Can I just say one comment just as a consumer?
Please. Rick Gomez. Welcome to the show.
From someone that submits for clients. I mean, as far as I understand, graders' notes, they should really be noting things that shouldn't be obvious by looking at the book. So at least to me, if I'm looking at a 9.9 or a 9.8, I should I can almost always look at it and say, well, I can see why it's not a 10. It's got that standard binary wear at the top and the bottom, or a spine nick or something. So I find graders' notes more helpful in like the 7s or 8s or something where they're saying a crease that doesn't break color that you wouldn't notice, but then you look at it and like that helps you stand out. So the defects we're talking about at that high level there's only so many you can really go through that would even be apparent.
Well, Matt has conceded that they would be value add. But at the end of the day, people are paying for a service. They're getting what they get for the service. And this is a conservation show, so I'm going to move us along.
Fair enough.
We've already gone, we're gonna, so thank you, those of you joining. And if you're new to the channel, we appreciate you being here, but we're here to talk conservation primarily, not these grading distinctions. So Matt, we have a number of folks who have submitted work that they are convinced is good A quality conserved work, and it comes back in a purple label, and they have been dealing with you on a onesie twosie basis. Here's an example from one of our members, a Wiz Comics, that was initially graded as restored, and then after some conversation ends up conserved. So the question here is, when this happens, what should folks do, A, and then B, what can we do to make this happen less often? And what are you at CGC doing to make this happen less often?
Okay, so if you get a book back like that, your goal is conserved and you get back a restored book, call customer service first, see if they can give you any information that might be beyond the grader's notes. There might be some internal notes or something like that. Ultimately, if that doesn't really kind of, I think probably the next step would be to actually send the book back to have it reevaluated. That doesn't necessarily mean mechanical error.
Right.
Phil knows this because he deals with, customer books a lot. And so mechanical errors where something is, clearly wrong, there's like, wrong information on the label, or something's wrong with the holder or something like that. When you get into grade related issues, it's more of a gray area in terms of mechanical errors. So this would be kind of a grade related issue. So the best thing to do is just send it back in, call customer service, say, look, I just want to, have a reevaluation done on this book because the goal was conserved. And that kind of falls into a special subcategory that falls outside of all this other stuff that we're talking about, like people, pressing and all that other stuff. So the book will come back, and we'll reevaluate it, because remember, we're just looking at the book. We're getting the book and we're making the call based on the work. So if the book comes back to us with a question, then that indicates that the person that's inquiring about it probably was working on the book and wants to understand, what happens.
Exactly.
This is a book that somebody bought that was worked on 20 years ago, and they got what they got, and whatever it is, So we kind of, we in that case, we'd like to give, positive feedback, and so we'll reevaluate the book and say, okay, sometimes we may have been on the fence and we went the opposite way, and we'll go back. Sometimes we get the book and go, okay, look, there's an issue with the quality of the work, or the execution, something like that. So
for those that don't know, it must be, in addition to archival materials, the quality of the work has to be A.
Oh, that's
right. It can't be B or C, right? So there were actually some questions about whether or not you would ever consider conserved, sort of breaking it out into ABC conserved. The answer is, I don't know what you might think about in the future, but as of today, all conserved work is A-level work, period. Yeah. It can't be conserved if it's not A-level. Yeah. So to your point, it could be on the fence in several different ways, Matt. One of them might be, this is right on the edge of where we think A and B work is, right? And so if someone approaches you and asks for feedback, that's an opportunity for you to say, hey, we would like to see this done in a different way, or this we don't feel is quite to professional standard. Yeah. And that's where the conversation happens.
Yeah, it's really just pointing out to the person the red flags. We're not telling them how to do the work or how to change the work. That's up to them. It's just what we're seeing, so that they can change their work themselves to get to that goal. Whether it's the paper not having dimensional change, or being less, not being threadbare, or being too white, or whatever the case is. And so just trying to get it to where, because like I said, the graders are really they're like what's the word? They're tuned, fine-tuned to grade in a certain way. And conservation is looked at no different than all the other things, the enhancements that they come across. And so that's kind of the barometer that we use to determine, the quality of somebody's work. Even if they're using the right materials, the execution might actually be a little bit off. And so the goal is, is to get the person to improve their work, because it's altruistic, and to the point where when it goes through the graders, they don't bat an eye. They go, oh, this is conserved. This is beautiful. This is great. Move it along, and that's what we're trying to get people. So I do welcome people to send conserved books back that, to understand what's going on, so we can give them better feedback.
And it's a learning curve for you and for us at the end of the day. Gorilla Monkey, Don Carter's actually the person who he's outed himself here, who's sent multiple books in that this has happened to, and he did send in notes. So there's room for improvement here, is the point, right?
Well, there's also, I've gotten books back that I've conserved, but they come back restored with a A1 label, great on the restoration. And I've had
that's the other corner case. Yeah,
it's the other corner case, and I've had to send them back, and they do get corrected, so that is a question too.
Yeah, the piece fill versus leaf casting. That's sometimes confusing for the graders, because the leaf casting, it looks a certain way, feels a certain way, and there's a big variance these days between the styles of leaf casting we get in, and traditional,
and the quality, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, and so it's
a lot of different methods being used.
Yeah, and a lot of styles and methods and the outcomes, and so for the grader, it's tough to differentiate between that and traditional piece fill, which is also quite varied. So it's just I think it's just I would just say that we're generally right now kind of we're all in this learning curve, and including CGC, that we're trying to get to a point where, just short of putting people's names on books that restored them or conserved them, we actually, we're all aligned to where the stuff's coming through and we know what we're looking at, and you guys get what you're expecting.
Yeah. Well, it's still a new.
And we appreciate it.
You're working still on relatively new.
So it is. Not only that, it's new in the amount of volume you're getting of leaf casted books.
The
really,
uptick in leaf casting volume is
4 years ago. It was Kenny Sanderson, and then it was Kenny plus Jerry the Jitterbug, and then that has gone logarithmic though. I know of at least 16 people that have started in the last 18 months submitting books that are leaf casted to CGC, right? So, and they're using different methods. And so, I appreciate you, Matt. We didn't mean to grill you on this, but
no, it's fine.
You guys are working on it. We're working on it. And the bottom line is, sorry that this is happening, but there is a path to get it corrected. We know it's annoying to get it corrected, but you're trying to make it happen less often.
Yeah, we would,
and notes do help, although they're not a panacea.
No, there are times where notes. Oh God, I have to admit, sometimes when we get notes and we're looking at the book, going, "Oh boy, it's just is just not there," and it's the challenges of the Chinese wall. I come back to that because we maintain that as much as we can, and again, the vast majority of the books that we get don't pertain to anything we're talking about.
Right.
So
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and so this is kind of like the one little corner of the grading that I'm just like, we really need to foster this. We really need to help this grow and get strong and mature, because this, to me, there's an aspect of this that's the future of collecting, certainly, or a future of enhancement for vintage books, particularly, which of course near and dear to my heart. So it's that's a delicate balance between that and the Chinese wall. But if there's ever, send it back in for review, and we'll take a look at it and send through a third party some feedback.
To the people watching that have had this issue, I can at least say from my point of view, I remember the point vividly when the stance changed from pieces added, when I couldn't layer mending tissue. It was only acceptable if you're relief casting. And right at that moment, getting those purple labels back, and that was a learning point for me. But since that point, I've noticed enough where, Matt, I haven't had to ask you to look at books. I'll say this. Books that I know should be conserved, in my experience, the graders at CGC have in the last several years gotten much better at IDing it. And to a point Kenny made once, really, oftentimes the things that are flagging books for purple are obvious color touch, things where maybe it is something where they can't tell if the piece added is done through leaf casting or not, which then might put into question the quality of it, so to speak. So usually there's some answer why it was done. For the most part, it's not just, oh, it was a mistake, it happened. There's usually something. So I've had better experiences over the last, and this is also at least since 2014. The conserve label is still really, it's been 10, 12 years, but it's still enough time where you don't see a ton of conserve labels out there. We're only now starting to see more. They're starting
to become more mainstream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
It's understandable.
Yeah,
Matt, David Clark, thanks for joining the show. Thanks for the question. I'm going to paraphrase it and put it a slightly different way. You have pre-screening, like people can say, I'd like a 9.8 pre-screen. Would you ever consider giving somebody a restored pre-screen? Like, I'm subbing this book. If it's restored, don't bother grading it. Just charge me a chop fee for telling me that it's restored
because
and send it back to
not everybody can see.
I don't want it in a purple.
like you can.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So would an example be like if I had a 25 book invoice with a 9.8 pre-screen, and one of the books was a 9.8 but had color touch, would I reject it because of the color touch, even though it passed?
Or let me cast it at what I think would be more realistic. Let's say I'm a collector of Golden Age or Silver Age comics, and I'm going to sub 40 comics to your vintage tier. But I'd say I check a box saying, can you pre-screen them for restoration? And if any are restored, don't bother slabbing them. Just throw them aside and send them back to me. Charge me the $8 for the restoration pre-screen and send them back to me.
Yes, yeah, that would be like, that's one of those bucket list things, like the other stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah. So yeah, that well, how about this? I'll go one further, and I think I've discussed this before, and this is done in coins. If your book needs a pressing, we'll let you know. If it's restored, we'll let you know. Well, if it's restored removable, we'll let you know. And these are going a step beyond the grading
and
process.
Give you options. Sure.
Yes. And
awesome.
So yeah,
that'll be great.
That's on the horizon. That's.
I mean, it'd be sad if you're a conservator and you send your book in, and Matt sends you a note back saying this could use a press.
Oh yeah. Or the books coming from us that are pressed. These
True.
All right, we've been almost 2 hours, and I told you I would keep you 90 minutes, Matt. But we have two more. I think they're pretty quick and they're kind of mechanical kind of things.
I'm having fun with you guys. I hope you don't.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I'm having a lot of fun. But I want to be respectful of your time, especially on International Women's Day. I'm sure you want to get back to spending time with your wife.
Well, I got to get up and grade tomorrow morning. So
can I make a quick note? Because we're going to go at least maybe 10 more minutes here. But if you're watching this and you like it and you want to give us a thumbs up, we appreciate it. If you want to give us a thumbs up, a thumbs down, and be honest, because you don't like one of us, that's fine too. But we appreciate just your opinion and leave it a comment afterwards. We appreciate everyone in the chat. And
absolutely.
Also, Matt, our live viewership right now is at least double what it normally is.
Oh,
so
great.
People want to see your face. So
people want to see Matt.
We appreciate you being here, but clearly the audience appreciates you being here too. So.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for me being on the show, having me on the show. I don't. The whole thing's it's great. I'm glad to be here. Everybody know it's it's a lot of.
It's a mutual love fest.
Because I know you guys. I know you guys were having fun. There's some fun.
Yeah.
It's nighttime. It's not during work hours, so. Yeah, you let your hair down a little bit,
So this is my book. It's from the Big Apple pedigree, and it's it's got water damage. It's horribly wrinkled like bacon, like a piece of bacon here. It's a 3.5, and I want to crack it. and I just want to do some universal work and send it back to you. We had several people asking similar questions. I just thought I would use my book as an example here. So what is the process? I'd like to do this, and obviously I would only do it if I can keep that Big Apple pedigree. What do I need to do? What shouldn't I do? What are the best practices? Give me some guidelines here.
Yeah, so pedigrees should, it doesn't matter if you crack it out or anybody cracks it out. It should keep its designation. Now, sometimes pedigrees are not as readily or easily identifiable without a tag. Really, what I'm talking about is with or without a tag. So, ideally, you do your work, you would send the book back in with the tag, we would get the tag, go, okay, Big Apple. By the way, is that the little loop-de-loop thing on the little loop?
It does. It's there in the top of the A for Adventure Comics.
Okay. All right.
So the first thing I should do is erase that.
Yes, absolutely.
Just like the Edgar Church codes, take them right off. So that's not like if you sent that book in without a tag, we would go, okay, the Big Apple. Now you're taking a chance. You're taking a slight chance that someone would miss it, but generally that's pretty identifiable. It's like Cosmic Aeroplanes and Larson's and all that. Sure. But if it was a pedigree that has no markings, like a River City or a Denver or something, then or a Pacific Coast, then there would be you would run more of a risk without a tag. So you're allowed to crack all this stuff out and do whatever you want to it, but I would recommend sending it in with the tag if there's a pedigree, just to make sure 100% that it's going to be, and when you submit it, obviously, you have the option to enter the pedigree as well. So even if you didn't submit the book with a tag and you enter that, we're still going to do our due diligence without a tag. We're going to say, okay, is this the Big Apple? Oh, there's the thing. Maybe we've got an image of it before. We'll check that and we'll confirm it, whatever. But if you want to remove all doubt, just send a book back in with a tag, and that'll.
Yeah, because I think I asked a similar question. I also have a Big Apple book, but it does not have any exterior markings. I was afraid to crack the slab, and you had told me send it in with the label.
I mean, imagine how nice this is going to look in a new label with the golden black tuxedo and with these wrinkles gone. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
One more question. It's not actually conservation related, but it's similar to this one. And this is also my book, but we had others ask the same question. So I have a qualified book. It's signed. I know that this is from the limited run. Numbered signed edition. So I know this is really Ben Dunn's signature. How do I submit this? How do I get it authenticated? What do I need to do? Pros, cons, best practices, and how is that book going to be treated by CGC/JSA?
Okay, so if the book is signed on the cover, it has to go through JSA. Even if you don't submit it directly to JSA on the submission form, it will be flagged at some point in the process and sent to JSA or automatically, I believe. Now, if the book is signed on the interior, like on the first page, you have the option to pay for JSA. If you don't, then basically the book it'll still get a blue label. And the rationale behind that is that A, you can't see the signature. B, it has no bearing on grade because it's on page 1 and not the cover. And so we've extended that option to people. Now we will flag them. We flag everything in the grading room. So books come in either, previously the JSA is chosen on the submission form, and it goes through that process before it gets to the grading room, or they come into the grading room and they're flagged, whether it's the cover or the first page or whatever. If a signature is seen, it goes back to the receiving team or whoever that then notifies the customer. You got to stick on your book. Either you have to have a JSA, or you have the option, if it's on an interior page, not to. So that's the process. And then I think it's $25 a sig. And then, once that's done, then the book finishes grading and goes on through. So,
so in this instance though, okay, so it's $5 though, just for the fact that you have JSA books, right? So it's going to add $5 to an invoice plus the $25 for the book.
Oh, wait. $5 was
like if I'm subbing it and I choose JSA, then isn't that like a new order form? In the same way that if I send you 2 modern books and 2 vintage books, it's $5 for the 2 modern and $5 for the 2 vintage.
Oh, that's a per invoice charge.
Right. But if I send it in
that's not
specifically as
whether
JSA.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
you're going to charge $5 regardless of what's on the invoice.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then it's 25 for the signature. In this instance, specifically, this book has been a 9.8. Should I send that to you in the slab? It's going to get cracked all the way out anyway, right? It's not just going to get reholdered because JSA has to physically see it to verify.
Mm-hmm.
So should I send it to you in the slab? Does it help me get nothing is going to guarantee me a 9.8, but am I have a better chance at a 9.8 if I send it to you slabbed already, and at least your people see that you gave it a 9.8 already once?
I mean, there is some benefit in any scenario to sending a book to us in a slab, whether it's to be JSA'd or to be prepped, big series, because if we crack it out, then it's like we're taking on the responsibility of what's inside that. Right. If you crack it out, any of you guys, Phil, all bets are off. Right. So in that regard, in general, it's always best to send it to us in a holder. But in terms of whether it gets authenticated or retains the grade, it doesn't matter. If the book's a 9.4, if we grade it a 9.8 and for whatever reason it's 9.4, holder damage or whatever, it's going to get a 9.4. If the SIG is fake, it's going to get not authentic, regardless of whether it's sent to us in a holder or not. So it really, in some cases it really doesn't matter if you crack it out ahead of time. But unless you're pressing it yourself or you're adding signatures to it or whatever the case is, you might as well just send it in the holder.
Send it in. Okay. So it's not guaranteed to keep that grade because you're not just reholdering it. But obviously, unless it was exogenously damaged or something, it ought to get the grade.
Yeah.
And should they? Just the last follow up on that. Yeah. Does it help at all for them to send a copy of the certificate of authenticity or anything like that, or GSA is not even going to look at it?
They're good. They're going to reevaluate it. Even if they looked at it before, they're going to reevaluate it. There have been, I'm not going to lie, where they said yes and then they no. Few and far between, but it has happened. And so, but again, it's like cracking the book out. It doesn't hurt. I'm not going to say it helps. Well, it does help keeping it in the holder to some degree. Send it in the holder, send it with the paperwork, send everything in.
I'm sending it to you, Matt, and then I'm going to show off that beautiful been done cover soon on the channel. That is all we had for you, Matt. Again, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom.
We've gone 2 hours, and your time is valuable to us, and we really appreciate it. I would like to just say a few thank yous, and then I'll let everybody else do the same. Thank you to everybody in the chat, all of the great interaction we had. I really appreciate it. Thank you to this show's sponsors. They are, again, Phil Criminale, Don Carter, Gorilla Monkey 3K, and Collecting Chaos, and the incredible show of support we have for next episode. Salesboy Comics, Don Carter, Collecting Chaos, You Pluck My Last Comic, I Am Starman, Gorilla Monkey 3K, Comic Doctor, Salesboy, and Agent of Camp. Thank you to all of the new viewers. We really appreciate you, whether you're watching us live or you're catching us on demand. Thank you for everybody watching here through Liberty Hill Comics or through Flying L Comics. We appreciate you. Thank you to my co-hosts, as always. And thank you, Matt. We really appreciate it. And
we do.
I don't know if you want to plug your pedigree book. When are we going to see that?
Oh boy, don't get me started on that.
I was going to do it. I did it.
I'll leave you all with a teaser. I am neck deep in it right now. I
can't wait. I'm so excited about this book, Matt.
I know we've talked about it privately, but I'll tell the public. It's been the biggest running joke of my career is this pedigree book, right? I wrote the grading guide, and they still tease me about the pedigree book. I'm like, what? So I got to get this thing out. So I've learned. I'm not going to say a word about it. I'm just going to move forward. But I've been interviewing the Mile High. I've been diving deep into the Mile High because I figure I'm going to start with that one. That's right. That's the centerpiece. That's the in the universe. It revolves around the Mile High collection. So I've talked to a lot of key players back in the day about the collection. I'm crunching a huge amount of data right now, pulling original lists and everything. So me and Steve are working on it. It's still going to be a ways off. It's a ways off. But right now, it is my pet project that I've been devoting a lot of my free time to. So
awesome.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll see. But I think it actually happened.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Again, thanks, everybody. Thank you to all the women. Happy International Women's Day. And anybody wants to say anything else, give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment on the show, please.
Leave a comment on the video for later. We really love seeing those comments.
I'm going to say my standard outro, and then you guys feel free to do the same. Until next time, take care of one another.
See you later, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, Matt. And thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah.